everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. Today I'm painting another character from Monster Slaughter by Ankama Games. This is currently on Kickstarter, so I'll leave a link in the description below so you can go and check it out if you're interested. They did send me a review copy of this game, so for once while painting these models I'm actually able to play this Kickstarter game, and it's, so far we've only played it a handful of times, but it's got positive reviews from us so far. We need to play it a lot more to know for certain, but we want to play it again, which is a great start for a game. So this tutorial I'm going to be painting Cam from it. He's the stoner, the hippie, the hillbilly, I'm not quite sure. Should we stereotype him? I don't know, let's call him the dude for this. So I'm just attaching him to my model painter here, so I'm also going to be trying that out. So the main reason for that here is these models are prototypes and they're quite fragile. So the model holder allows me to apply pressure off of the model, so I'm not going to accidentally snap him in half. We're going to start with Survivor Skin, that's by the Army Painter. And I'm going to be applying that to his face and his hands, and that's all the skin you can see on this this model. So I started off with my regiment brush and just realised the model's too small and detailed for that, so I just straight away switched down to my detailed brush, as you can see here. And I'm just holding the model, using the model holder various different ways. That just came very naturally. The model holder's already off to a great start in this video. I'm going to be using Gory Red by Vallejo and sticking with the detail brush. I'm going to be applying this to his hoodie. He looks like he's wearing a red hoodie in the art. So the artwork for this game, as you just saw at the beginning, you only get the you get his face and his chest, and then you sort of have to go with your best guess from there. So if you rely heavily on the artwork for painting models, which I often do, this is a difficult one to go about doing. But I mean that's great. This tutorial is going to be helpful in that respect to a lot of people who need some inspiration when painting. So it's taken a little bit of time to do the hoodie because, as I mentioned, I'm using my detail brush, so it's quite small, but I'm just being very careful, not getting any on the tassels of his hoodie or the zip down the middle, the cuffs of his arms, or the sort of cuff around his waist. I'm also going to be painting his hat in the same red, so that's the peak, the cap bit. I'm just leaving that front. It's like a trucker's hat, but as far as I can tell on the artwork, so I'm leaving the front white. And then his shoes are not detailed in the artwork, but I'm going for a Superstar or the Shell Toes by Adidas. Bit of a product placement there for you, but some red ones with the white toe caps and white laces is what I thought. Just similar to Converse, I guess, in that respect. Wasted Jeans by the Army Painter I'm going to be applying with my regiment brush, and what I found is this is a really watery paint straight out of the pot. I didn't add any water to this, and I thought, oh no, this is going to take me 300, maybe 400 coats to bring up to the colour that I wanted. But as I was applying it, I noticed it looked like stonewashed jeans straight away, so I sort of worked with that and worked the colour into the recesses, and it sort of ran off of the raised parts as well, so I went with it, and let's see how that looks by the end of the video. But that was one coat with the super watery Wasted Jeans, and I decided that was done and done. So I went on to Leather Brown next by the Army Painter, and this is for his belt around his jeans. I'm a bit concerned about how much this model might look a little bit like how I dress, as I'm sat here in my stonewashed jeans, brown belt and red hoodie at the moment, so that's a bit worrying. But I'm also doing his hair, which he's got one up on me there, but doing his hair in the leather brown as well, just to stick to my usual, just try and use a handful, maybe 3 to 4 main colours on a model. So just using the same brown across those two. Just getting Wasted Jeans back out now, and that's to touch up the belt loops across his jeans, and just paint in the band that runs across the belt, which I didn't see originally, and then just touch up some of the recessed areas, just adding a little bit more of this paint, just because, as I did mention, it is super watery, so I still had plenty ready to use because it was the wettest paint ever on my palette. So I'm just applying a second coat here, just for where I think it should have been darker. So this is after I decided the stonewash was good, so just applying a bit where it needed. I'm going to use Dark Green by Vallejo, and that's just paint in his beer bottle. I presume it's beer, looks like a beer bottle, so I'm just doing that in a bright glassy green. I think that's what green glass looks like to me, so that's the green I chose. A detail brush again here, just being extra careful, don't want to get in any of his hands, which I've just painted. And that's the bottle done. I'm going to use Claymore Blade, that's by the Army Painter, that's my light silver, so any light silver would do. Using the detail brush again, I'm just painting in the buckle for his belt. I'm going to use Survivor Shader, that's the black shader by the Army Painter, and this is to add some shade to his the caps on on his shell toes there. I'm also going to get some in his laces just to give a little bit of definition between that and the rest of the red. Just a little bit, just a light bit. I'm not using too much shader. I'm going to use deep shader, the dark brown shader by the Army Painter, and that's to colour in the froth from the top of his beard there. And then we're straight on to highlighting. That's all the shade I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight up this model, Benton-esque, and just try and avoid some shader, which I don't often do, but let's see how that goes. So this is Survivor skin, 75% of that with 25% white, and we're just going to lighten up all the raised parts of the skin. So that was his nose, his chin, his cheeks, his fingers, his ears. And then we're going to mix another 25% in. So this is 50 white, 50 Survivor skin. And we're going to paint all the extreme parts of his skin now. So his cheekbones, his nose, the very tip of his jaw, the tips of his ears, and each of his knuckles on his fingers. Gory red with white primer. This is about 2/3 red, 1/3 white. And this is for the highlighting up of his hoodie. So I'll be painting in all the creases in the hoodie, all the folds in the hoodie, as well as his pockets, so the edges of all his pockets, his elbows, the rim along the bottom, all the creases across the back, there's quite a few of those. Then I'm going to paint up the majority of his hood, so the bottom triangle, as well as the raised bit along the top. So there's quite a few little lines, but this is such a subtle highlight, you can afford to do quite a lot. Just make sure you catch all the raised bits and leave all the recesses with the original gory red, and that will sort of give the shaded look by the end of the model. So I'm just painting up his hat here, all the raised parts along the peak of his cap. His shoes, I'm just painting in some more of the colour, so mainly to get the colour back there because of the shader that I used. After that, I'm going to use white primer, and that's to touch up the trucker's hat and the edge of his hoodie, as well as those tassels hanging down and the bottom cuff. Would you call it a cuff? I don't know what you call that elastic bit along the bottom of your hoodie. I'm also doing the cuffs of his wrist as well. So this is just tidying up anywhere the red went that I didn't mean for it to do, but it's also adding a brighter highlight because this model was pre-primed for me in a sort of just slightly grey white. So this is perfect for just highlighting up that white and giving it a nice shine. I'm also going to use the same white to paint back in some of the froth on his beard. So I've watered it down a lot more now, so it's a slightly clearer, because I want to use that brown shade underneath to sort of give the beer tint to that froth that's coming off. And then going to use the white as well to paint back in these tips, so leaving the shade in the ridges of each of these caps on his shoes, and just painting in sort of 4 lines on each shoe. I'm also then going to paint these soles white. I think they'd be white to match the cap and the laces, so just going back round, getting rid of all that shade that I put on before, and just making his soles nice and bright white. I'm going to use Claymore Blade and just give him 2 of those sort of metal shoelace ends that you get on, like the ends of shoelaces and hoodies and that sort of stuff, so just give them a bit of shine, just gives a little bit of colour to the whites of those hoodies. So next I'm going to use Scrofulous Brown. I don't know how you pronounce that one. This is by Vallejo, and it's quite an orangey bright brown. This is to highlight up the edges of all of his hair, and then I'm going to mix that 50% with 50% leather brown, and that's just to highlight up his belt. And I'm just going to catch both edges, the top edge and the bottom edge, with a very, very thin line of that. Hot orange is going to come out. This is neat, and I'm going to apply the thinnest amount I can, and this is all to the very, very extreme raised parts of all of his hoodie, so each fold line along the edges of his pockets and his elbows, and that orange is really going to highlight up the red from before and just start giving him quite a poppy highlight there, make him stand out a little bit better. As with Brittany the cheerleader, I'm going to paint the base brown. It's the colour of the human card, so I just think it's a little bit colour coordinated. So once I've painted that leather brown, I'll get out my dead black. I'm going to add him in 2 pupils, like so, using the handy model holder so you can see the pressure. You can see my thumb there being deformed by the amount of pressure that I was using to keep the model perfectly still, and didn't snap him off the base, which is fantastic. I'm also going to use the dead black just to paint around the edge of the base and just make it a little bit more interesting, bring your focus back to the model more than staring at that big brown base. A little bit, tiny little bit of gloss varnish, and that's just on the bottle just to make it look more glass-like. And while I'm there, I'll just add a little bit to his eyes and the ends of his tassels and his teeth, because I can. Take him off the model holder, as easy as that. So that's him completely finished. So hardly any shader. So let me know in the comments what you thought to that. I very, very rarely don't use much shader. He only took an hour and 13 minutes, mainly because his jeans, look at those jeans. I think they look amazing for the fact they took me about a minute and a half. No highlighting, no shade, and I think they look very, very stonewashed to me. So I had a lot of corners cut on this video, just things fell into place lovely for me. So let me know in the comments what you think. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and the description to go and check out the game on Kickstarter will be in the links below. Thank you all very much for watching.